Welcome to this episode of the Sports Detective Podcast Show. My name is James Williams, and today we discuss if Jerod Mayo was fired by the New England Patriots for winning. What are we talking about? Well, as you guys know, Jerod Mayo got fired after one season with the New England Patriots after they finished with a 4-13 record, and a lot of people are pointing out the fact that the New England Patriots, heading into their last game, held the number one overall pick if the season were to end after 16 games. As you can see on your screen right now, the New England Patriots would have had the number one pick in the NFL draft. Well, as you guys know, the New England Patriots ended up winning their last game of the season, making them fall from the first pick all the way to the fourth pick. As you can now see on your screen, they are there at the fourth pick of the NFL draft. And this led a lot of people to say, because the firing happened like immediately after the game, that announcement came out. And let a lot of people say, oh my God, did the Patriots just fire him because he didn't tank? Because he didn't tank? First off, no. What we're going to do in this video here today, I'm going to tell you guys the reasons why Jerod Mayo got fired. And we're going to talk about if it was unfair or not. No. Guys, this is something, if anything, the Patriots probably did this poorly because they probably should have fired him before the game because Jerod Mayo and the Patriots staff thought they were coaching for their jobs in that game. A report came a few weeks ago that like, hey, if the Patriots can finish strong in these last three games, then that might be enough for Jerod Mayo to keep his job. If they have a poor performance the last few games, then they might go a different way. So if anything, they probably should have fired him before because he thought he was, if they wanted the number one overall pick, because he was coaching for his job. Okay, so that's number one. And two, to the point too, it's like, I heard even Dan Patrick's say this on the radio. It's like, well, wait a minute. If they would have won the game, they would have lost the game, would he have kept his job? No, guys. And I heard Brian Curtis talking about this on the press box. He's talking about like the Jimmy Carter obituaries that are all coming out from all of like the media organizations after he passed away. These are things that they had prepared for a very long time. And this is a thing that like these media spaces, they don't just rush together at the end. These big organizations, they don't just rush together like when the news is final to like release all these statements. No. The Patriots released a statement after the game. They had a prepared statement. That statement wasn't just made in the third quarter. That statement was probably ready weeks ago, maybe days ago. Okay, so it wasn't like something like, oh, they won, fired. That wasn't what happened. Now, a lot of people are pointing out, hey, Jerod Mayo went 4-13 this year. Bill Belichick went 4-13 last year. What the heck? What are the Patriots doing? They had the same record. Did you really think that Jerod Mayo was going to, really turn water into wine with this roster? They didn't fire him because he didn't win enough games. That wasn't the expectation. It's not shocking that the Patriots went 4-13 this year. They weren't expecting to make the playoffs. They knew this was going to be a rebuilding year. So why did they fire Jerod Mayo? Well, there's a few different reasons. One, if you look at this roster and the New England Patriots, is it a great roster? No. But it's a lot of the same guys that were there last year. The only difference is there's some nice draft picks that they signed. They re-signed a lot of guys that they liked. They have a franchise quarterback now. But if you just compare the defense from last year to this year, 2023, the New England Patriots under Bill Belichick were 7th in total defense. 2024, they fall all the way to 23rd. They gave up 2,200 rushing yards this year. They were 28th in defensive DVOA. They were 30th in EPA per play. This defense was a top 10 unit that fell to a bottom 10 unit. And Jerod Mayo is a defensive coach. Guys, this is the same roster that Bill Belichick was working with last year. He's a defensive coach. Offense, the same thing. Was horrible last year. They had a few upgrades this year. Was the offensive line great? No. Were the offensive weapons great? No. But I think Drake May is a lot better at quarterback than Mac Jones. Offense stayed the same. Still one of the worst units in the NFL. And it's not just on the field performance that got Jerod Mayo fired. This is a guy that in press conferences addressing the media would repeatedly contradict himself, have to walk back statements. He would throw people under the bus. He would not take blame for himself a lot of the time. And that is a huge reason why he got fired. A few examples of that. Right after he got the job about a year ago, he was in an interview and he was like, oh my God, we're going to be spending loads of cash, man. That's what we're going to be doing this offseason. We're going to be spending loads of cash in free agency. And he even told a story where it's like, hey, right after I said that to the media, the GM came to me. He's like, dude, don't say that stuff to the media. We don't know what we're going to do yet. And like you can't just say we're going to be spending a bunch of stuff because you're like over promising when they don't know if they can actually deliver on that. So then Jerod Mayo had to walk that back in April and be like, hey, yeah, what I should have said was that we were going to make smart financial decisions with our cap space. That's what he basically said that they should have said. Okay. When Drake May got drafted, he's like, hey, we are going to have an open quarterback competition. Well, what happened during the preseason? Jerod Mayo goes out there and says, hey, Drake May is outplaying Jacoby Brissett for the quarterback job right now. And people are like, oh, okay, so Drake May is going to start then. If you said it was an open competition and he's outplaying him, and it's like week 1, Jacoby Brissett's the starter. So it's like you're completely contradicting yourself. You're confusing people, and you're sending a wrong message to the fans and the team at this point. I got more, guys. Do you guys remember in October when he called his team soft? And it wasn't a thing in a press conference where someone, was, trying to trick him or, they led him into a question. It was his opening statement in the press conference. He called his team soft. This is what Bill Belichick had to say on the Pat McAfee show when Jerod Mayo called the New England Patriots soft. So we'll go ahead and play this now, and then I'll give you guys a few other Jerod Mayo stories.
Defensively, the Patriots led the league last year in rushing defense, yards per carry, number 1 in the league. And this year they're way down in the 20s somewhere. It's the same guys. They re-signed Jennings, they re-signed Tavai, they re-signed obviously Duggar, right? Marcus Jones and Gonzalez have been healthy all year, which they were both on IR at this point last year. So you got Wise, you got Godshaw, you got Keon White, you got Mapu, you got Gonzalez, 3 rookies from last year. So it's a lot of the same players. And in some cases, I would say more. So I don't, I'm kind of hurt for those guys because to call them soft, they're not soft. They were the best team in the league last year against the run. And those guys went out there and did it, even though we couldn't score many points offensively. So I don't know. I feel bad for the defensive players on that one because those guys, that's a tough group. I mean, John Jones, Godshaw, Wise, Jennings, those are all Uche. Those guys are all tough. Like they'll strap it up and go. Duggar, I mean, they're tough guys.
Bill Belichick defending the players, not throwing them under the bus, saying what I was saying earlier. Hey, this is the same roster as it was last year. If anything, they had better health at that point of the season, and they were still one of the worst defensive units stopping the run, comparatively to a year before, one of the best, right? So again, throwing people under the bus, contradicting yourself, not taking accountability. There was another time where he was talking about like wide receiver Jalen Polk because he had like a few drops, and Jerod Mayo's like, Polk's got like a mental hump, I think is what he called it, that he's got to get over, and then he can get better at doing that stuff. Polk was asked about that after the fact about Mayo's comment, and he was like, there's nothing wrong with me mentally. I don't know why he said that. Like, that was just a weird comment. There was a game against Indianapolis where Indianapolis is driving late in the game, and if you're watching the game, it's like, hey, the Patriots should probably start using some timeouts here so Indianapolis doesn't just run down the clock and give New England zero time at all to try and drive down the field and kick a game-winning field goal. Indianapolis ended up kicking game-winning field goal. Patriots had like 12 seconds left to try and do anything on offense. Mayo asked about that after the game. He was like, yeah, I thought about it, but, in the Super Bowl, the Patriots have experience not calling timeouts. He's referring to the Russell Wilson, Malcolm Butler play. We have experience, not calling timeouts, and it worked for us then. He comes back the next day and he's like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have said that. Again, walking things back, contradicting himself. There was a time in December when a reporter was asking him, like, hey, should the team start doing a lot more like run plays, quarterback run plays? Because that seems like it's kind of effective when Drake May does those and scrambles and you utilize his feet. Do you think that'd be a good thing? And basically, Jerod Mayo, a guy that's not calling the offense, is like, well, you said it, not me. Basically, kind of the tone of that was he was throwing his offensive coordinator, Alex Van Pelt, I believe is his name. I'm sorry if I know it's Alex Van something, under the bus. So that's another bad thing. Again, throwing players under the bus, throwing his own assistants under the bus, not taking accountability. There's another thing, I think it was like a week or two later, where he was asked a few hours before the game, he was talking about the running back Gibson. He's like, oh yeah, Gibby's going to start this game. Well, come to be the first drive of the game, the New England Patriots hand off to Ramondre Stevenson on the first drive, meaning that Gibson wasn't the starting running back that game. This guy just kept over and over again contradicting himself, throwing people under the bus, sending mixed signals, and it's kind of like if he's not communicating that well to the media, when a lot of times you prepare for this stuff, you know what questions people are going to ask. What is he like when he is doing that in front of a team? How is he preparing his team? A lot of the Patriots fans are very upset this year because they thought a lot of times going into a lot of these games, they didn't have a good offensive game plan. Didn't have a good defensive game plan. They didn't handle decisions at the end of games that well. They're failing in all three phases of the game. And that is why Jerod Mayo got fired. It's not because they were 4-3 and the Patriots were expecting more wins this season, or because he gave up the draft position that they had with the number 1 pick. No. It's because he wasn't that good of a head coach, guys. It's that plain and simple. And you have an opportunity now that it looks like, if you're reading all of the tea leaves, that Mike Vrabel wants the Patriots job. And if you asked, let's say, so I think 5 coaches got fired. Of the 27 teams that have head coaches right now, how many of them right now would you say, if you said to them, hey, if you fire your coach, you have 100% guaranteed to hire Mike Vrabel? How many of them would be like, okay, yeah, we'll do it? The number ain't 0. I think it's probably more than half, maybe close to half, if I'm being generous. So that is another reason why you have a chance to get Mike Vrabel. And to the part here that I said at the beginning, is this an unfair situation that Jerod Mayo got put into? Was he given the best roster? Was he given a roster that was ready to win today? No, he was not, but that was not his job. His job was to have a rebuild. It was going to be a few-year rebuild, and this team, on year 2 of their rebuild, or maybe you can even say year 1, regressed. The defense regressed. The offense stayed the same with a better quarterback. So that is why. To the unfair question of this, I think it was unfair that Jerod Mayo got put into this situation in the first place. Why do I say that? Guys, Jerod Mayo was only a assistant for the Patriots for like 5 years. He was obviously a longtime player for the Patriots before that, a really, really good player, by the way. But he was only an assistant for 5 years. And I was doing some digging because I was kind of wondering with some of these other head coaches. And I was kind of going through, I was like, okay, what did like Mike Vrabel do before he became a head coach? What did Mike Tomlin do before he became a head coach? What did D'Amico Ryans do before he became a head coach? And I was going through a bunch of different head coaches. And a lot of these guys bounce around to different schools, to different teams. They have different positions that they're going after. So, some people are like D-backs coach here. They're a defensive assistant here. They are a defensive coordinator here. Jerod Mayo never called plays before this year. He had no experience calling plays. He was only a linebackers coach. It wasn't like he was D-line and then linebacker, defense quality control coach, defensive coordinator. Like, even if you look at someone like D'Amico Ryans, who his whole coaching career before Houston was just with the 49ers, he had like 3 different jobs when he was with the 49ers. He was defensive quality control coach, he was defensive backs coach, and he was defensive coordinator. So I think that just knowing that, and the fact that the Krafts, and Robert Kraft specifically, handpicked Jerod Mayo years ago. By the way, only 5 years as an assistant. Years ago, he handpicked Jerod Mayo to be the heir apparent to Bill Belichick before he knew Jerod Mayo would be a good coach. So why did he do it? He did it because he liked Jerod Mayo, because that's how NFL owners hire head coaches. And that's why we have so many bad head coaches in the NFL. That's why we have so many people that you're kind of look at some situations where you're like, hey, why did that guy not get that long of a leash? Or hey, why is that guy getting this long of a leash? It's because they hire people they like. They keep people that they like longer. Do you think Robert Kraft wanted to admit failure on Jerod Mayo, his handpicked successor? Do you think he wanted to do that? No, he didn't. But he realized he's a bad coach. Now, maybe you could say, hey, Robert Kraft's had like a bad year. He's had a bad year with the New England media, with the whole documentary thing and the Belichick thing and like kind of everything that's happened. And he's kind of like, hey, I'm kind of like sufficing to the fans. And when he's doing the Tom Brady roast, he's like almost like over complimentary of Bill Belichick that it seems fake. And he's just trying to appease the fans. Maybe, but I'm okay with this firing. I don't think Jerod Mayo, I think he was put in an unfair situation because I don't think he was ready to be a head coach. Hopefully, if he can maybe get some experience coaching at another situation, he can end up working his way back up to be considered to be a head coach. But I'm okay with this decision, and I think it was a good decision, especially if you can get Mike Rabel to come in and replace him. So there you have it. That's going to do it for this episode here today. If you liked what you saw here, please hit that subscribe button. Feel free to like the video if you enjoyed this content here today, and feel free to leave a comment on what you thought about the video. So feel free to check out other videos on the Sports Detective Podcast channel page, and thank you for watching. I'll talk to you next time.